always give that vote.
Court is in session with Ryan in Sacktown on If You Don't Like That. Now, Ryan in Sacktown.
Oh, must be Rhino.
It's Taco Tuesday!
No LeBron. It is Jerry Reynolds Tuesday. What's going on? The King's Court live with you. Apparently, practice just wrapping up at the G1C. We've talked about Malik Monk holding Coach Brown accountable and the coaching staff accountable this preseason. Malik Monk interrupted the press conference with Mike Brown because it was taking too long, according to Matt George of Locked On Kings and ABC 10. Go figure. Gotta love Malik. What's going on, everybody? Ryan in Sacktown with you. A lot to get to. Jerry Reynolds joining us here about 2:30. We're brought to you by Bennett's. You know the name. Get to Bennett'sRestaurants.com. Do me a favor. Check out their private dining rooms. You got holiday parties coming up. Got all these different things, Christmas parties, office parties, maybe a family get-together. They've got awesome, and I mean awesome, private dining rooms. Very, very intimate. Still get the same great Bennett's. Prime cuts of seafood and steak. 3 locations throughout the area. Go to Bennett'sRestaurants.com. Learn more about that. A lot of Kings to get to. Bane, what's up, man? I acknowledge you.
Acknowledge me!
Appreciate it, dude. You're going to get Sean Salisbury tomorrow, but we are kicking off a double header today on If You Don't Like That. Grant and I will be back at 8 o'clock. No shortage of topics to talk about. How about the Jets and Robert Saleh? Did 49ers fans, did your ears perk up a little bit when you heard Robert Saleh had been fired? You thinking, wait, can you hire a fired head coach? Can you bring him in the same season as a coordinator? The details about how all that went down in New York, I want to talk about that in a few minutes before Jerry gets here. And just like, let's see, SoCal Lifestyle did, put your questions in the chat for Jerry. I would love, absolutely love to get to as many as possible. Now realize there's a flow to what we do. You know, we're gonna pick and choose the questions. If they're not really in the same lane with the way the conversation's going, I'll hold them over for another week and try to get them in when they actually work. But get them in there. Love to hear from you. You can also call the show as well. If you want to call, you can use the QR code that is now on that shoulder. That way? No, that way. There we go. And you can get in that way. Would love to hear from you. So let's set it up that way. A lot to get to. If you didn't catch the King's Court shoot around this morning, go check it out. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. I talked a little bit more about the situation in Stockton. Gabriel Harris getting the full-time GM job. He's done a great job down there. Absolutely deserves it. You've also got a change at the head coach with Quentin Crawford. And we talked about Kings practice yesterday. And one of the big focuses that the Kings are trying to hone in on this season. Not a big surprise. They were really good at it last season, believe it or not. So we'll get to that in a little bit. Andrew, oh my gosh. Wasn't that just a terrible week? You saw the writing on the wall that the Seahawks were going to lose that game. And then of all things, the Giants defender does the Cam Chancellor and jumps over the line to block the field goal and returns it. Come on. Big game on Thursday, though. Huge game. Niners and Seahawks. I hate divisional games on a short week. Doesn't make sense to me. I get why the networks want them. They pay big money for the product. They want intriguing matchups, but just not really into it. We've talked a lot about Bronny. I'll bring it up, Bane. I can certainly bring it up. Yeah, let's talk about Robert Saleh really quick because this situation to me is so confusing. And there's multiple reports going on about what actually happened. Who got Robert Saleh fired? Was it Aaron Rodgers, as Bane is talking about? What was the situation around that? There's also a report that Robert Saleh was surprised that he was getting fired. So the biggest surprise to me in all this is that Robert Saleh was surprised that he was getting fired. This thing has been off the rails for a good year at minimum. This offseason was so incredibly awkward. Yet Aaron, it was like a power struggle, right? Between him and Aaron Rodgers. You got to know these personalities, these professional athletes, when you get to the level that Robert Saleh was at, when you get to the pros, NFL, NBA, whatever it may be, it's not coaching your little league team. You are not a coach in that sense anymore. You are managing personalities. And a head coach is really the CEO of that entire business. They've got their hands in a little bit of everything. And some guys, it fits perfectly. They are great leaders of men. Other guys, they're just great football coaches and not good at being a head coach. And I think that's where Robert Saleh falls. He's a great defensive coordinator. The Jets defense has been consistently good with him at or in New York, I should say. But other than that, it has been so awkward from his press conferences to going back to the offseason, the power struggle with Aaron Rodgers and him. You know, he coached Aaron Rodgers for what, 5 minutes last season before Aaron got hurt. So he gets 5 games with him this year. But you saw some weird stuff on the sidelines, and part of that is social media. Part of that is people making quick cuts with the camera work, making it look more weird than it really was, right? But the other part of it was what I was saying again, the offseason. Saleh comes out, you know, this is the year. We got to get it done. Aaron and I were on the same page. He's got his coordinator, Nathaniel Hackett, who obviously they had the year before. And don't forget, they brought in guys that Aaron Rodgers wanted to play with, Lazard being one of them. They had Cobb on the roster last year, Randall Cobb. But this past offseason, you have Aaron Rodgers come out and say, we've got to be here every single day. Football is number one. Everything else, shut it out, right? And then what? 6-8 weeks later, he misses. I think it was an OTA. And Robert Saleh is like, yeah, well, it's not excused, but we knew about it. You know, it was basically we're excusing it with prejudice. And it's like, oh, here we go. Here we go. There is a classic power struggle between these two. And as the season went on, you could see Aaron Rodgers not always looking so happy with Robert Saleh. You saw Robert Saleh trying to be the big, you know, rah cheerleader. We scored a touchdown. You got Aaron Rodgers. Hey, let's be professional. It's just a touchdown, right? And then we get here, right? And Woody Johnson, there's reports saying the owner of the Jets did not, or said that Aaron Rodgers had no input on Robert Saleh's firing. Now, don't insult my intelligence. Let's think about this for a second, especially now that you have a competing report coming out that Robert Saleh was considering firing Nathaniel Hackett, who was Aaron Rodgers' guy. So whatever this situation is, to the point where there's additional reports that Robert Saleh had to be escorted out of the Jets facility. I mean, is there anything worse than that? Security escorting you out of the building? Now, whether any of that is true or not, we'll find out in the coming days. But then there's the 49ers aspect, a defense that's been underperforming in a year that is supposed to be the year for the San Francisco 49ers. And Niner fan, where are you at? Are you trying to get Saleh? And I'm not saying you're going to have Robert Saleh on the sidelines. Damon Bruce, who covers the Niners very closely, if you pay attention to my X account on Sundays, many times I will retweet Damon shows for you. He goes live at the 2-minute warning every Sunday when the Niners are playing. So that way, anybody that's here in our fan base wants to get their Niners coverage, go check him out. But Damon talked about it earlier today, and he's right. If I'm the Niners, I'm picking up the phone. Hey, Robert, my man, I know that you just lost your job. You want to go on vacation, which Robert Saleh has already said he wants to do, wants to spend some time with his family, understood. But they're football coaches. Remember, when these guys are in season, they hardly see their families for the most part. Some of these coaches are sleeping at the facilities. So you go from that extreme to now another extreme where you are around your family 24/7. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I think we all kind of went through that with COVID, right? You were forced to shelter in place, whatever it may be, working from home now, especially families with dual incomes. Space gets a little tight. So where's the balance in between? Well, Robert, why don't you just look over the defense? Maybe you can be a consultant for us. Maybe you can point a few things out for us. You don't have to be on the staff. But Niners, why not? Why not, Niner fan? Why the hell not? The guy knows the scheme. Probably one of the best D coordinators you've had. Brandon Staley, what is he doing right now? Does that undercut him? Maybe. But it's an interesting conversation. And then you throw Jeff Ulbrich, who is now the acting interim head coach of the Jets, into this. Is there a more awkward position for a coach to be in than that of Jeff Ulbrich? What do you do? Because the fan base is looking for some type of indication that things are going to be different, that things weren't right, and the franchise made the right move by firing the head coach. Yet that dude hired you. And I get it's a cutthroat business, but that's got to be really, really awkward. So Jets fans, 2-3 so far this season. Does this do anything to save the season? I mean, Rodgers is banged up. He's got a sprained ankle. Before that, his knee was bugging him. So I'm interested in seeing, yet the Jets actually are still somewhat in that division. So we'll see what happens in New York. Story still developing in New York with the Robert Saleh firing. Anybody surprised by it? The fact that Robert was surprised is the most surprising thing to me. But give me your takes. Would love to hear from all of you. Flores, we're getting our questions in for Jerry. I love it. If Jerry was the Kings coach, what type of offense would he run? Pick and roll with Fox and Sabonis. We'll get to that. That's in the notes. Want to talk to Jerry. A lot of talk. And, Flores, that's a good place to transition. Because if you've been paying attention to the media, if you've been paying attention to social media, and this is Mike Bibby appearing on a podcast, this has been the overwhelming sentiment when it comes to the Kings offense. Somebody's going to get frozen out. This is going to stunt Keegan's growth. This was Mike Bibby on a podcast recently.
DeMar DeRozan, where he said the Sacramento Kings will be in the Western Conference Finals, because he said that.
I think everybody got a chance. I don't know if they can. I don't know. I'm not. No, if I'm being honest. I think they have a chance that they can make the Western Conference Finals. The only thing I'm scared about for that process is somebody has to be asked out.
So who?
I think it's going to be Keegan. It got to be, because now he's going to have to play a whole different role. You got Fox, you got Sabonis, you got Monk, and you got DeRozan.
When you saying Keegan, because I like his game.
I like his game too.
And I like what he brings to the table. He's the guy that can stretch the floor, big rebounds and stuff like that. But he can really
too. Keegan's role is going to have to, can he take that role of go stand in the corner? And if these four guys don't shoot it, it might come around you. Can he adapt to that?
I see what you're saying with that. And sometimes that is hard for guys.
I don't quite think that's going to be Keegan's role offensively. I think the game has changed a lot. And the way that Mike Brown coaches the offense. Now, let's take two categories. There's the principles that the Kings play by, and then there's the actual play with the Kings. I love the principles, the cutting hard, being intentional, making reads, somewhat positionless basketball. It's a great concept. It's an excellent concept. It's shown, or the Kings have shown, that concept works. 22-23, they had the highest NBA or offensive rating in the history of the NBA. But what happened last year? Same concepts, extremely different result because guys were standing around too much. And you could put that on a number of different factors. You could say Coach Brown, he didn't call as many set plays. True. He's on the record saying as much at the end of the season, too, when it mattered. You could also say that team didn't have enough distributors. Also true. But does somebody get frozen out of this? I don't think so. We'll talk to Jerry about that. And I don't think it stunts Keegan's growth either. I think it puts Keegan back on a more natural growth progression. Last year, you saw the coaches really pushing Keegan to be more of a playmaker. Now, I don't disagree with pushing Keegan. That's spot on. You've got to push him, but you don't just push him out there and make him you want him to be comfortable as well as, pushing him and getting uncomfortable. You have to get comfortable being uncomfortable, but you don't always have to be in that uncomfortable zone. And with DeMar DeRozan on the floor, theoretically, with the Kings, that's going to open up more opportunities for Keegan Murray to spot up. Same thing with a couple of other guys, Keon Ellis, who we've talked about, and Kevin Huerter, presumably. And Kevin, by the way, he's a little bit closer than we think. Now, the question becomes, he's going to be reevaluated fairly soon. Can the Kings sneak him in to a preseason game? Is he going to be ready to go to get any type of run in the preseason, which kicks off tomorrow night, Golden State at the G1C for the Kings? But back to Keegan Murray really quick. I guess my thought is he's going to see more defenders, probably a little bit more off base. They're going to be coming to close out rather than set and guarding Keegan when he's going to intentionally try to make a play. So maybe that playmaking, in a sense, because the defense theoretically should be moving more, that playmaking becomes a little bit easier for him. And there's not as big of an ask for it as there was last year. So a lot of good stuff we can get into with Jerry. He will be here any minute, but we talked about Kings practice yesterday. Huge focus yesterday. I said this at the start of the show. One of the things the Kings did excellent last year. Excellent. I mean that with all my heart. They were really good on the offensive boards. They were 12th in the NBA. You know what they were better at? They were better at keeping their opponents off the offensive boards. Second in the NBA. So last year, they threw a little bit of a different wrinkle into their scheme when it comes to crashing the boards. And this year, they are doing the same. Yesterday's practice was largely centered around offensive rebounding and their rebounding zones, their crash zones, as they call them. I've got some audio from Coach Brown. In fact, in one of the scrimmages, I'll let Coach Brown tell you. Here was Coach Brown after practice talking about the offensive rebounding.
Today, when we played, we gave plus 2 points to a team that got an offensive rebound. So if I'm on defense, that meant I'm gonna box you out because I'm not gonna let you get the offensive rebound because then we lose 2 points on the board. Mm-hmm. I think our black team won a drill because within that drill, they had like 5 offensive rebounds. I don't think they made a bucket, but they got 5 offensive rebounds. And we want to show our guys that, hey, if you win the possession game, you're going to give yourself a chance to win while getting stops. Now, you can't think you're going to get 20 offensive rebounds and no stops and think you're going to win. But if you get stops like you're capable of, and you offense a rebound, you come up with the loose balls, you come up with all those types of things, you're going to give yourself, make free throws, get to the free throw line, limit them from getting there, you're going to give yourself a chance to win. And that was proven today with the black team in this particular drill. I don't even think they made a bucket, but winning the drill because they came up with 4 or 5 offensive rebounds.
So there you go. Big emphasis yesterday on the offensive rebounding, winning the drill with no buckets, but 5 offensive rebounds. I love it. That's the charge stuff that's like the charge stuff the Kings are doing, ringing the bell. Anytime someone takes a charge, Keegan Murray, talk about him like we were a second ago. His defense has been impeccable the last year, and I only expect it to get better this year. Keegan will have the toughest assignment night in and night out. And the great thing about Keegan is his offensive game does not dictate his play on defense, which I think is great. Domas was talking also about the offensive rebounding and some of the wrinkles that go into it.
There's different rules for people above the break. We added another crasher last year towards the end of the season, and our defensive transition defense was still number one. So coaches want us to do it now from the jump from the jump.
And that brings up another question for me that I wanted to get into it with Jerry about is, does the Kings' size in some way help them in some respects with the way that they're running the offense and the fact that they're going to have everybody crashing? That's not necessarily a traditional thing in the NBA. Now, it felt like in 22-23, because rebounding was a problem for the Kings. In fact, you might argue rebounding, specifically giving up offensive rebounds, cost the Kings the opportunity to move on to the second round of the playoffs in Game 7 against the Warriors. Like I said, it got much better last year, but with everybody talking about the size of this team, the size is not significantly different from last year. Now, guys are still dealing with injuries. We talked about Orlando Robinson most recently. He has a sprained MCL. He'll be reevaluated in 4 weeks, so you can take him out of the picture. But can the Kings find a way to use their lack of size to their benefit? And I think they probably can. That's a Jerry question. That's a coaching question. So I'm interested to see what Jerry has to say about that. Bain, college football was nuts last weekend too. I think Jerry said he follows it. Would also be a good topic if he wants to as well. Yeah, we'll start off talking the weekend. His Chiefs, man. What are you going to do about the Kansas City Chiefs? They just grow players. They're so good. They're special. It's Patrick Mahomes. Think about that. When Patrick signed his contract, people are like, are you crazy? Some people, I should say. That long of a contract for a quarterback in the National Football League? Now it looks like a steal. They already renegotiated it once, but the Chiefs are rolling, and they're not playing pretty. Last night was better, but up until last night, it has not been necessarily chocolate and roses for the Chiefs. So I'm sure Jerry will definitely have a take on that. No doubt, dude. Freaking Chiefs. That's pretty much all you can say about the Chiefs. They just keep rolling. So again, we are talking Kings training camp. We're already getting some great questions in the chat for Jerry, and we'll get to those in just a few minutes. Speaking of Jerry, we are very lucky every single Tuesday, most Tuesdays, to have Jerry here talking Kings basketball with us as the season ramps up and gets closer. So happy to have the one and only Mr. Jerry Reynolds. We did it right. We're both wearing hats, buddy.
Yeah, we're on the same page, aren't we? I've got my King stuff on here, really getting excited about the season about to start. I mean, obviously preseason, not a huge fan of it, but it's basketball. And excited to be with you, Ryan, and of course the great fans out there and their outstanding questions. So basketball, football, and I know you're taking a couple little veiled shots at my Chiefs, but that's okay.
I'm not taking shots at him, Jerry. I'm impressed because they can win anyway.
They're 5-0, and they, bit like most teams in the league, there's so many close games. It's just so early to tell. I think they're very good. I think they got the best defense in the league. I think that's why they're where they are. Their offenses, with the injuries they've had, they're much like the Niners. They've had key guys out. So we'll see where it goes. But we know, just like the NBA, there's always surprises as the season goes along. So it's like Minnesota's 5-0, and I don't really think they're one of the best teams in the league, but they've played like it so far.
They've been pretty dominant, but you're right. It's a long season. That's what people forget. And it's a season that flies by so quick, Jerry. It's like
It sure
NFL
does.
starts and it ends.
Every week there's so many, like upsets. Of course, there's parity, so much parity in the league. It's much like, I always say there's about usually by the end of the season, there's 2 or 3 teams that stand out.
Sure.
It's kind of special, and 2 or 3 that aren't any good at all. And the rest are 8 and 9, 9 and 8.
Yeah. And sometimes those teams that have a bad division that sneak in the playoffs, they get hot at the right time. And who knows?
That's the thing. Because it's one game, and
exactly
get hot at the right time. And, baseball is a little bit like that in the sense that pitching, playoff baseball is different than regular season baseball.
Completely.
You've got rest, and then pitching staff. Pitching is more important than ever in playoffs, and of course relievers. So it's kind of interesting. But anyway, good day for me yesterday. Me and my son watched the Royals win, and then
nice
at the same time watch the Chiefs win. I used to be a big Royals fan, but as a front runner when they fell. When of course during the Brett years they were also but then I haven't really followed them much since, so I'm sort of jumping back on the bandwagon, being the front runner that I am.
You and Grant put anything on that series?
No. I don't bet on anything except the lottery. I always buy lottery tickets, which is just a gift to the education system.
Sure, write it off.
I wish I could.
So anything else catch your eye this weekend in the sports world? There was a lot going on.
Well, there really was. Yeah. I mean, you've got the WNBA finals being played, and of course, NFL football, college football. Vanderbilt beating Alabama may be the most surprising upset that I can think of in decades. They come off a big win against Georgia and then go to Vanderbilt, which, I don't know how you explain that stuff.
And then the students carry the goalposts all the way through downtown.
Well, like Vanderbilt, quite honestly, I'm not sure they belong in the SEC. They haven't been competitive in football in my lifetime that I know of.
It's a great point. There's a couple teams like that. Mississippi State, they're not usually
would be
great.
The other one. Yeah, Ole Miss is good, and Mississippi State has been at times, but Vanderbilt never has, to my knowledge. I could be wrong, but.
And your knowledge is pretty good. So before you came on, we were talking about the Robert Saleh situation, him getting fired in New York. And I don't have a question about that situation, but I do have a question in this sense. What is it like for a coordinator or the new interim head coach stepping into that position? I get it's probably exciting, but it's also pretty uncomfortable, I would imagine, between the tug and pull with the media, the owners, players. What's that like, Jer?
Yeah, well, I've done it, so it's not pleasant because in general, certainly the coach that's fired is the same guy who hired you.
Yeah,
if you're a coordinator, and generally speaking, you're friends, and so you really don't like seeing your friend fired. But then again, you have to work, and so it's an opportunity. So that part is one of the difficult parts of it. But then, it's also true. It's like, well, the reason you're in that position, the team has underperformed. And so it's up to, you have an opportunity, to if you can make it better, and that's all you can do, make it somewhat better, then of course, probably you will get to keep the job. And that's, I think the idea that the Jets are Super Bowl contenders when the season started, that's probably kind of gone. And so the same pressures wouldn't be applied to the interim, but it is tough. The first thing he's got to, they got to do is get the team back on board.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure that, there's a long way to go in this season, and obviously, with Rodgers, hasn't played particularly well, but he's capable, and their defense is was supposed to be among the elite, and it really hasn't been. And they can be again. So, a lot of New York's a lot of pressure, and so it's an opportunity for the interim, but it's also, if they don't win, and play much better, then he won't be the interim next year. He won't. He'll probably be a coordinator somewhere else.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever had an interim that I can remember.
Yeah, no.
So let's get to a couple.
Just on one final thing, my guess is that he wouldn't have gotten the spot if Rodgers and a couple of the key guys didn't okay it.
Bingo. Jerry, how much has that changed in your time around sports with star players being consulted now on franchise decisions?
Quite a bit. I think when I first came to the league, not very much. Now, I think by the early 2000s, I think that we started to see a change. And really, it's all related to money.
Sure.
I mean, when star players are making 40 or 50, $60 million or on a $250 million contract, I think if I were an owner, I think it'd be silly not to contact and consult them.
Absolutely.
I mean, they're your partners.
It's funny that you said partners and not employees, because some owners don't see it that way.
Yeah, there's a lot that haven't, probably don't, because it's a little bit of an old school, the term owners.
Yeah.
And I see it both ways. I mean, the owners are also have invested hundreds of millions, if not billions, in this franchise. So they've got a lot more in it than the players do. The players, and the players in fact are employees, but some are very important employees.
Yes.
And so it'd be more like CEOs of a corporation. They might not be the owners of it, but they're very important. So yeah, that's changed. And it, they always say, any questions about anything, follow the money. And I think it definitely applies in sports.
Absolutely. Jerry Reynolds joining us here on the Kings Court. We're going to be talking week 2 of Kings training camp, also preseason game number 1 tomorrow night from the G1C. Let's get to some of the questions already in the chat for you. Jerry, do you think Keegan should be himself and be a leader in other ways besides communicating, or should he really speak up more this season and get involved in the offense?
Yeah, that's a great question. I personally think Keegan needs to be Keegan.
Bingo.
I mean, he's not a raw guy, and some of the best players in the history of the game have not been. I mean, thinking of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar to start with, guys like that they just went out and wanted to play and perform. Some of his all-time greats. No, I think he just needs to be Keegan Murray and try to keep getting better as a player. I think his personality he's a great teammate, and let his skills do the speaking. There's others that can be more. I think with DeRozan and De'Aaron and Sabonis, I think those guys they've been around enough, and they certainly are confident in their abilities. So I think that can be taken care of.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. You got Malik this year stepping up. He said that he feels that he's the vocal leader of the team, keeping the coaching staff accountable and training.
He might be actually the most outspoken. Now, I don't know exactly if he's the number one leader, but he definitely does lead by example and word and everything. Whereas I think with Keegan, he's just a guy I think is more comfortable being one of the guys and being the best player he can be.
Bingo. And in some ways, and we've talked about Keegan's importance to the defense, he leads by example defensively. Yes. Hardly ever, Jerry, is he out of position. Most nights he's guarding the most difficult player on the court.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen that through the years. Some of the great teams, I always remember the Bad Boy Pistons, Joe Dumars, great player, not the leader, but a leader by example. He certainly was, And I mean, on the Bulls, Scottie Pippen was never an outspoken kind of guy until he retired and became very outspoken.
Yeah, that
But
changed.
during his play, I mean, obviously it was Michael's team and everybody knew that.
Yep, absolutely. I've noticed a little bit, and I want to get your take. I'll just hand it off to you, your observations on camp. But I had talked in the offseason that the Kings maybe needed some more defined roles, right? Because of the free flowing offense and interchangeable here, interchangeable there. And my perception thus far in training camp, with coach talking about the emphasis on offensive rebounding, the climbing together motto that they are going with this year. Not everybody's going to get to the summit, but we need everybody for somebody to get there. It seems like there's looking to be a little bit more of a balanced approach, both in what's on the floor and also within the physicality. What have been your takes so far on training camp?
Well, I think that's a great way to approach it. I mean, for this team to have a lot of success, I mean, one thing is that they're small.
Yeah.
So the way you make up for that, is get the group involved and on the offensive rebounding, defensive rebounding. I mean, I think it should be a team that says 5 to the board. Don't just leave it to Domas.
Sure.
He'll do his part, but all 5 guys, if you have 5 guys involved in defensive rebounding, then you'll get more of them. And offensive rebound, obviously you can't have 5 guys because you got to protect the backcourt. But, just 5 guys that are involved, because I especially think defensive rebounding, because good defense can't end until you get the ball. And
Absolutely.
And that's rebounding for the most part.
Absolutely. And when it comes to the defense, I'm expecting there to be a decent dose of zone defense, depending on some of the combinations on the floor. Jerry, what are your expectations for the Kings defensively, whether it be in zone, and what would you like to see from them this year?
Well, yeah, I agree with you. I really think this team needs to play a little more zone. Obviously, they can, one thing about it, years of college coaching for me, we played a lot of matchup zone, and you can basically look like a man-to-man if you want to, but that goes into getting your ball pressure early, and then sometimes teams especially with 24-second clock. It's not like in college where you have a little more time to recognize it.
Exactly.
So you can really make a team waste about 10 seconds to figure out that you're in a man or zone.
Bingo.
And so I think then with the small team, it would allow you maybe to full court or 3/4 press and fall and basically slide back into a zone so you could keep more pressure on the ball. So those are some of the things, in addition to just more pressure on the ball in man-to-man to get the game, pushed away from the basket.
Yeah, and the Kings, when they did that last year, when they got teams off of their spots, because all too often teams got to where they wanted to go. And when they did the opposite, they had great success. A great example of that, Jerry, was the play-in game against the Warriors.
Yeah, that one thing it's kind of familiar, I think, in about every sport. But in basketball, I mean, the more pressure you can put on offensive players, the tougher it is. I mean, if you let guys, as we talked about, get to their spots, well, just as a Kings fan like I am, I know it's how much better it is for De'Aaron if he can get where he wants to go all the time. Well, he can a lot, but against good defense, it gets tougher. And now all of a sudden, instead of getting that open 12-footer, well, maybe it's a 16-footer that he can get. And or Domas really can't back his man down to the basket. They're sending the second guy. Making the offensive player uncomfortable. I mean, we see it in football every day. I mean, if the quarterback's uncomfortable, they're going to have a tough time having an effective offense.
Spot on. Jerry joining us here. And I think Keon Ellis, actually, when you look at Davion Mitchell, I should say, was the guy that you wanted kind of picking up with that full court defense and dropping back in, as you said. That seems to suit Keon Ellis to a T for this team this year.
Sure does. And I kind of think Keon might be a better defender. Now, he's not necessarily better just on the ball and individually, but his length and his instincts, to where he can really give defensive help, I think, better than Davion. So, but yeah, he really, honestly, we've talked about before, but I just think the guy made the Kings a better defensive team once he entered the starting lineup. I mean, and it picked up De'Aaron spot as well, and certainly De'Aaron's a much improved defender, which is the key. So yeah, I like the way they finished, and I'm hoping they, just like you said, they start the same way and maybe add a few wrinkles to go with the added pressure that we saw last year.
Absolutely. And it's a great point about Keon. And to the point earlier that I was making with more balance, Coach Brown has talked about that a little bit when it comes to the offensive side of the court and looking at how many shots are on the floor. When you have Domas, DeMar, Keegan, Foxy, having Keon there, who has been getting the number one reps at the shooting guard, makes so much sense because you don't need a lot of offense from that position, but he provides all those things that you just said, Jerry.
Yeah, and he's proven to be a very good 3-point shooter, and I think that will play out continually in his career. And the point with DeRozan and De'Aaron in particular, going to be a lot of double teams and attention
Bingo.
focused on those guys. So with good ball movement and unselfish play, which we've seen in the past, I think we'll still see, he's going to get a lot of good open looks, and that's what you're looking for in that position is 8-10 shots a game and hit 5 of them from 3. That's 10,
Yep.
12, and that'll be great because you're not expecting him to go make plays off the dribble offensively. You got other guys to do that. You got 3 guys that are much better at it, if not 4.
Yeah, and the reality is, too, whether it's Keon Ellis, whether it's Kevin Huerter, if you're looking at the 5 that's on the court that starts the game, that's going to be the guy that teams hang off of, period.
Yeah, they've got to make some choices. I mean, it's one of those things when you're a coach and you're going to play the Kings. Okay, what's your defenses? Who are you worried about?
Right.
Well, you're worried about De'Aaron Fox, probably number one. Although with DeRozan, it might change a little. I mean, but certainly there's guys you got to focus on, and certainly with Domas, you're concerned about him around the basket. But be that as it may, you're going to focus on those other 2 guys on the perimeter, and they're going to draw attention, which means Keon really won't be drawing that much attention, which is a good thing.
Yes, spot freaking on. Flores has a question. Jerry, if you were, I'm going to throw in the coach again, what type of offense would you run? Pick and roll with Sabonis? Question.
Well, that is a great question. If I were coach, number one thing is I'd ask for $8 million and then maybe get sick. But
that's a lot of chicken and dumplings.
Yeah, I was going to say, but a different time. But I do think I think with Domas, I mean, I like running the offense through him. I think that with DeRozan, I mean, I think you still want some high screen rolls. With DeMar, I mean, in his case, you might run more side pick and rolls, and dribble handoffs. Of course, I think a lot of things I think you would want to see the same. I think maybe the only difference in some cases, I would like to see maybe a little more even some high-low kind of action with Keegan Murray involved with Domas, and I think just a little something different, and to get some more post play. And I think you can do that with DeRozan as well. He's a very good post player. And so even though he might be smaller and who's guarding him, but I mean, I think the Kings could do that with going through Domas at the high spots and or even reverses. So a little more high-low post action, I think would be very effective.
I think you're right on. When things were not going well offensively for the Kings at times last year, they did that high-low with Harrison Barnes, and it worked. And I think it worked. Exactly right. And if it didn't work, a lot of times they were getting fouled, which slowed things down, got them to the line. Now you got to cash in on your free throws, which is another story that the Kings are definitely focused on this year. Coach Brown was talking about, and I think this is spot on. There's that balance between how do you make the defense come up and guard Domas a little bit more, because we've seen them sag off so much. But he said, Domas, I need you to start the DHO, initiate the offense where the defender is at rather than at the spot. Do you think that's the better medium than having Domas shoot a bunch of mid-range jump shots?
Well, I think he should look to shoot the mid-range shot a little more, number one. But boy, I couldn't agree more with Coach Brown there. In other words, all he's saying is take up some of the slack. If a guy's giving you 5 foot, well, we'll just drive the ball in that direction. And so the guy coming off the dribble handoff now is getting the ball at 18 feet instead of 23 feet. And so in other words, take what the defense gives you. And at some point, I mean, the defender can't back off into the stands. So you're in effect go at him a little bit.
I don't know, Jerry. The fans are getting closer and closer.
Well, yeah. Now with the old Arco, that wouldn't have taken much to get into the stand.
All right, we're taking a quick break from the Kings. Bane is curious. You and I have covered this before, but what are your thoughts on Braun and Bronny?
Well, I mean, my thoughts on LeBron is he's 40 years old and still one of the very best players in the world. Bronny, honestly, I just don't think he's an NBA player yet. Will he be someday? I think there's a good chance to where he will be. But he's a young man that's gotten a lot more attention probably than his skills have merited, to be honest with you. And there were better players probably not drafted. So there's that. But I wish him well. I think everybody says he's a great kid, but it's one of those things that he'll have to carry his own water here pretty soon. I mean, LeBron will be gone at some point. And so it's up to Bronny to really work on his game and get better. And, you feel like if he makes it or doesn't make it, it won't be because he hasn't put in the time. I think most people have a lot of respect for him that way. So we'll see. But it's an amazing thing to have father-son playing on the same team. Whatever the circumstances, as maybe skewed as they are. But it's just a credit to both, I guess. I mean, but mostly to Ron to still be playing when he's 40 and still be terrific at 40. As much as I hate to give him too much credit because he's a Laker.
Jerry, he's one of the guys that first started investing so much into his body.
Yeah, no question. I mean, you just wonder. I mean, it is remarkable that physically he looks as good as he ever has. I mean, now I don't think he's got quite the quickness and that he once had and all that, but he's gotten every drop of his ability, and that was kind of like a Tom Brady thing, I mean, they're ones of one. I don't know that we'll ever see either one of them like again, the guys that could play at such a high level for so long.
I completely agree with you. Unless kids start parents investing in their bodies early on, who knows? Maybe kids play till 45, 50, and it keeps going up from there. We've talked about how specialized youth sports is these days.
Yeah. I think it does help in some ways, but I think there's some young athletes that probably get burnt out of a certain sport if it's all they do. So, you may gain. And so I don't know. I think let kids be kids, play what they want to play. They'll find out what they're best at.
Bingo. Just get them off the video games.
Get them off the video games. Get them outside with some buddies, running, jumping, shooting, playing, whatever.
Absolutely. Here's the thing. The NBA is missing out on a golden opportunity with Bronny. And actually, the same opportunity is what's best for Bronny, and it's letting him develop in the G League. And you let him be the face of the G League, and you let him prove, I don't want to say prove the doubters wrong, because in this case, I think the doubters are right. If his last name isn't James, he's not being drafted in that spot. He's likely being an unsigned free agent at best, but if he's able to get the skill set that he needs through the G League, Jerry, and then come back to the NBA, the story's 2 times better.
Oh, absolutely. He'd be great. That's where he should be talent-wise. And I mean, we don't even know if he can be a top G League player yet.
Sure, it's a great point.
That's to be decided, but that's where he should be, where he can work on his game and be his own man, and he'd draw a lot of attention to the G League, which is still
Spot
good.
on. Yep, absolutely.
You know, so anyway, that's probably one of those things that makes too much sense. You know,
It makes
it's
too
completely
much.
logical, which is always dangerous. You know.
Yeah, those are the things where I just go.
Damn!
Come on. Romanowski, predictions for Kings standing in the Pacific Division. Jerry?
Well, being the eternal optimist, I guess, I really think they can win the division. You know, I mean, it's obviously, you know, Phoenix you think will be better getting the Tyus Jones a point guard, and so that's a little bit of a concern. But you know, the Warriors, I just think the Kings are better than the Warriors. Might not prove to be so. The Clippers, with Kawhi, you can't, you know.
Bingo.
Paul George going quiet, you know, just can't count on it. And then the Lakers, you got to be concerned about them as long as LeBron's healthy and Davis. They got two great ones there. So, but I think I like the Kings' chances. I like the Kings' chances in the Pacific.
3 of the 5 teams in the Pacific Division are in the top 5 of the hardest schedules in the NBA. The Kings and Lakers are the 2 that are not. I think the Kings should win the Pacific Division outside of something miraculous in Los Angeles or Phoenix somehow finding a way to put it together a season late.
Well, I know one thing. I'd much rather see them win the Pacific Division than the in-season tournament. How's that?
Yes. Do you think that's going to stick?
I really don't. I think each year it's going to lose a little steam. You know, the first year I thought it came off pretty well, and I think this year it'll still be, but I think it'll maybe start losing something.
Yep,
because you know it's completely forgotten within a month after it's over. You know.
Yes, I'm completely.
So that's not going to be lost on fans. So I think I'd be surprised if it's here 5 years, but you know, I mean, I mean they may have it, but it'll just be games.
Does that mean the Lakers have to take the banner down?
Yeah, I wouldn't feel good about raising that if I was there.
I love it. AB says, I'm getting O2 level Kings vibes this year. Not the same team, obviously, but my hot take is that DeMar really fits amazing into the team. Keegan takes another leap in his game, and Keon Ellis emerges. I don't know if I'm at O2 vibes, but there is a different, and Jerry, I'll let you speak to it. To me, there is a different confidence in this building, not only amongst the coaching staff, but the core of this team having DeMar DeRozan on it.
Well, yeah, I certainly think this team is ready for a step. I think DeMar will fit beautifully on this team. I think if the team really were starting the season completely healthy, you know, with Carter, you know, I think he would have added something, you know, so I mean, I think that's, and Herter, I think you've got a couple of key guys, I think, in a rotation that aren't available start the season. So that concerns me a little bit. But yeah, I do. I have a good feeling about this team. I'm not sure I can put it quite there at the 2001, 2002 level, the 60 win kind of team and a serious championship contender yet, but
should have won a championship.
Was a championship, but anyway.
Yeah.
I keep looking at my hand. I don't have a ring on it, so I guess I can't do it.
You so deserve that ring.
but yeah, you know, and I do kind of think it's closer to the season that when the Kings went from 44 to 55 wins. That was kind of Jay Will's last year, and you know, it was clear the team was really excellent, but it wasn't quite contending status, and so they made the trade for Bibby, which fit with Christie better. And of course, the Christie trade had happened the year before, or happened that season, and that helped them get to 55. And so I think it was, you know, I think this team is more like that, to where they're still kind of a piece away.
Bingo. Yep, they're their Aaron Gordon away, as I
Yeah.
like to say.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's a great point there because Denver's a very good team, but they weren't a contender till Aaron Gordon showed up.
Yep.
He was that perfect fit with the Joker.
He was. Now, this guy is calling in all the way from Serbia. I told him he's got 2 minutes with the one and only Jerry Reynolds. Baki, you're on with Jerry.
All right.
Good day, gentlemen. Okay, let's gonna be quick. Appreciate you and thanks and grateful for having me with Jerry. And the Kings are nothing without him. So hello to Jerry. And I would like to ask you guys about question marks for the next season. I'm gonna be really short. So we all know what we can expect from 90% of the players in the roster. But now when we have the new guy, which is the all-star caliber player, I would like to know what type of the game will he bring to the game, what type of the plays and behavior he's gonna bring to the game, and because a lot of people here in Serbia are actually which are truly NBA followers for the decades already. Think that the Kings from the 90s with Weber, Divac, Peja, and those guys were not the champions only because Chris Webb was very selfish in a lot of the games he played. He didn't bring the team game with it. And so do you think DeRozan will bring the game to the Kings, or he wants the team brings the game to him? That's
great.
my
Those are
question
great
for you.
points there. I do think DeRozan is, the thing that's different is C-Webb, when he came to the Kings, they were bad. And, he was a big part of what made them good. And so it's a different dynamic. In other words, he, for right or wrong, he kind of felt like he was the guy.
Yeah.
And he was the guy most of the time. But anyway, with DeRozan, he's joining the team. He's been a star, and he's been a star several places, but he knows he's coming. He has to fit in a little more. So it's, I think, a different dynamic. And then plus the other thing, he's an older player joining a younger bunch.
Yes.
So
that's the difference.
He isn't confident in his ability, but he's joining them, and he's well aware of them. So had the same thing happened when he was 25, it might be different. But I'm fairly confident from everything I know about the guy and people that have coached him and know him. They just think he's a true team guy.
And I'll go a step further here. He is bringing something that was so needed last year. And Jerry kind of hit on it with him being a veteran. His basketball IQ, the Kings desperately need at that spot.
Great stuff. Yeah.
So, Baki, where's Tedora today?
Oh, Tedora is with the school on the mountains. So they are having something extra. So I'm not gonna see her 7-8 days, maybe.
Oh, okay. So you got a little break.
But she told me that because I can hear from her only once on a day. She said, "Oh, I'm the only one who said the notifications on YouTube that the show is going on. So say everybody hello," and that's it from her.
Love it. Well,
she's always thinking about you guys. Don't you worry.
Love it.
That's awesome. Awesome.
She is part of the intro. She gets the holy moly, Jimba Bowley.
She's the best.
She's gonna rise to real hardcore NBA and Sacramento Kings fan.
Love it. Baki, be well, dude. Great call.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thanks, Baki.
Thank you, guys. Great.
All right. Well, Jerry, I guess
great, isn't he?
Oh, he's the best. He is such a true fan. A true fan.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
It's what time in Serbia right now?
Yeah, he makes me kind of shame myself. I'm not sure I'd be.
I don't know if we would, either of us would be able to hang with Baki.
No, I don't believe it. I know I wouldn't.
No, not at all. Yeah, it's midnight in Baki. Patrick, welcome in. Okay, so let's wrap up here. Tomorrow night, first preseason game. Mike Brown has said that he's going to play everybody that is available and able to play. Jerry, what are you looking for from the Kings tomorrow night?
Well, not. I mean, basically, I just want to see everybody trot out there. I mean, I always say with preseason, the last preseason game is always important to me because then you know they're getting ready to play.
Yeah.
This first one is a show and tell. Let's face it. The thing that probably I want to see everybody being healthy and having fun together. That's probably the truth of it. I expect to see them preparing for the playoff run in the first preseason game. I just don't think that it's even necessary, to be honest.
No.
I am disappointed. I think that Robinson's not going to be available to play.
Yes, he's not.
And I really thought and think that's a shame because this would be a great time with Lyles out and obviously a need. It'd be a great time if he were healthy to get a lot of extended minutes, which would be very important. Now, for Colby Jones and some of those, there's guys that the preseason is really important for. But I mean, let's face it, we know Fox, DeRozan, and Keegan and Malik. The last preseason game will be when we need to lock in on them.
Spot on. And we'll talk more next week about the end of the roster. The Robinson injury opens up an interesting situation to me because I think it's going to open a little bit bigger of an opportunity for Scal to possibly get a couple minutes here and there. He's been doing some great things down in Stockton. And I personally thought his NBA run was done, but who knows, Jerry? He is a heck of a professional.
And he's such a lively athlete. I think with Scal, the biggest problem he had, at least the first run, was he's just too nice a guy. and I mean, he's just simply too nice a person. And I think as he's gotten older, I do think that's one area where he understands. It's like, well, you can be a nice guy, but ball goes up. You, like I've said many times, you got to have a little shit bird in you.
Damn right.
Take it to him. And so hopefully, because he's got enough ability.
Yes.
He's got enough ability to play in the league. I mean, his length and his ability to shoot the ball. So, yeah, you're right. I'd like to. It would be a great opportunity for Scal to say, maybe I can be the guy to give you some off the bench minutes.
Well, and last year in Stockton, because I covered the team really close, he was running a lot of the same action, not to the degree that Domas runs it with the DHO, but a lot of initiating from the high post and getting some of the guys like Mason Jones some looks, getting who else was getting the looks then? Colby was getting a decent amount of looks. So anyways, I think he's familiar. And there's a reason a lot of those Stockton guys have been able to step in seamlessly to fill little roles here and there and be ready for the moment. Stockton's doing a great job, and they just hired Gabriel Harris full-time as their new GM.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I like
it.
the idea of the G League team they should be running the same stuff as the main team.
Yep.
Kind of like anything else, so that when their players are brought up, it's familiar to them. So yeah, a great opportunity for Scal, no question about it. And it's too bad about Orlando Robinson because you just hope he's not out throughout preseason.
Yes, I completely. Well, 4 weeks is the reevaluation. So what do the Kings hold a roster spot for him? We'll get into all that probably next week. But when we talk next week, will the Chiefs still be undefeated?
I think they got a week off. So
are they're on the bye? Okay.
Yeah, they thought a bye, so there's a good chance they will be.
You could have taken me to the court there, right? You could be like, I guarantee it.
Yeah, a long way to go. The Chiefs are good. I know they're good. And the Niners are good. They just got to get their stuff together a little bit.
Definitely.
Same way with the Bills. I mean, they're a better team than they played recently. So some of that's going to shake out. And maybe Minnesota isn't quite as good as they look. Maybe although, I mean, I don't wish anything bad on them. I'm happy to see Darnold playing well, and certainly all the rookie quarterbacks. I think, you've got 3 rookie quarterbacks just doing outstanding with
incredible
Daniels, who looks like a Hall of Famer already almost.
He's on a list with over a 4-game span, over an 82% completion rate. Only 2 other players were in the 80s: Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, and Jaden's at the top of the list.
That's a good small group to be in.
Not too bad.
No, I can't think of a rookie that I've seen any better than him in my lifetime. I mean, not saying
Wow.
there's others I would say are good, but
Yeah.
and then Caleb Williams is getting better, and Bo Nix is getting better, and it's good. That's why
Jerry,
NFL's a great break until NBA starts.
Damn right. And you know what, really quick, and we'll end here. We talk about it all the time on the basketball side. Most of those guys that you just named off, they stayed most of their eligibility in college. So it gave them a little bit more of a perspective or a prime to be ready to go immediately.
Oh, that's a great point. It's like the Brock Purdy thing. He played 50-some college games, and then Jaden Daniels did, and Bo Nix did.
Yep.
I mean, and so I no question. I mean, in today's game too, as much as they transfer, I mean, they all seem to play at least two schools, if not three.
Yeah, and what's the rush? They're getting paid. Some of them are getting paid well.
No, I was going to say if they had the same thing what they do in college basketball now, I mean, I think a lot of guys might stick an extra year. The guy that would be a second-round pick, it almost makes sense for him, to stay an extra year. I always say what they should do. If I was a father of a player that looked like he would be a second-round pick, I'd say stay. You're getting paid pretty good money by the team for sure that you're going to stay with. We'll get insurance in case something happens.
There you go.
And try to move up in the draft. So anyway, it's a different world out there for sure.
It definitely is. Jerry, you're the best. Thanks for coming and joining us here on another Tuesday.
Well, it's always a great time. Looking forward to it. And like I say, I'll probably take a couple of days off before I start getting mentally ready for next week.
Yeah, please do. Please do. I don't want you to burn out. We've got a long season ahead of us.
I don't want to burn out. I want to be here for you now.
Oh, and did you get my text message? No more 2-a-days. 2-a-days are done.
Oh, good. Yeah, I hadn't checked, and I was about ready to ask if you could give me a break because I'm starting to wear down. I can't do those suicides anymore.
I love you, buddy. Have a great rest of the week.
All right. Take care, Ryan.
All right, Jerry. That is awesome. How good is Jerry? So fun. How was that? What did you take from that? Let's break it down. Let me know. What a great conversation with Jerry. We covered a lot of ground there. Really good questions by all of you. Appreciate it. LeBron James is the Lance Armstrong of basketball? I don't know about that. Are you implying he's on? Yeah, there we go. Now we're getting into it. Domas, gonna be a top 5 MVP candidate, not according to the NBA GMs. Haven't got to that yet. Did you see the GM survey that was released about this season? They asked all of the GMs about many of these questions, and I can assure you Domas was not on the list of the top 5 getting votes. Now, you did have one king on the list, not in the MVP category, but you did have a king that was the number 1 vote in a category. Who do you think it is, and what category do you think it was? If you already read the article, then you know. So, but if you didn't, give me your guesses in the chat. Let's see. Can you ask Jerry how he aged backwards? AB, my man. He looks 10 times better in person, too. No BS. Jerry looks great. It's his routine. He's got a routine. He stays busy. He eats right. He walks every day. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Good point, man. He is doing it right. Absolutely doing it right. He doesn't go in for the chicken and dumplings every week. It's a once in a while thing, but definitely a very good point. Let's see. Yeah, he's got so many good sayings. There's some good ones that'll knock your earwax loose. I don't remember that one, but I definitely know that it is legit if AB is putting it in the chat. Baki, the first full live game watched in the NBA was the Kings last season play-in game. Can you count how long without 48 minutes NBA and how hungry I am? So you haven't watched a basketball game since the play-in. It's been a while, but not as long as you think, because it takes 16 wins to win the championship. Doesn't mean that you play only 4 games. It can go 7 games. I don't know, Baki. You missed the playoffs. We'll leave it at that. You know what that is. Flores, Monk, best bench. No, that was not it. But I don't remember seeing the category. You are warm in terms of the position. Now that's going to give it away, but it's De'Aaron Fox. But let me know what you think he was voted number 1 at. What do you think it was? In the meantime, do me a favor. Do me a favor. I only ask you on this one thing, and I promise you will come back thanking me. Get over to Bennett's, whether it's the West Side Grill in Rockland, if it's the location out off of Howe in Fair Oaks, or in Roseville. All 3 are absolutely incredible. They've got prime cuts of steak and seafood. Grant and I gush all the time on here about the New York Prime. Also, the Redfish, one of the only places in town that I know of that I've seen redfish on the menu, and it is absolutely delicious. It's blackened redfish, comes with a nice little lemon wedge, and you get some incredible sauteed spinach. And that's just the entrees. Monday through Friday, great happy hour, 2 to 6 o'clock. There's sips and tastes. By the way, 60 different wines by the glass. 60 different wines. And yeah, not done yet. Specials. They've got weekend brunch. You can get a couple of entrees, bottle of champagne for the lady, under $50. That's cheaper than a McDonald's breakfast these days. And also prime rib on the weekends, other specials during the week. Monday, wine and dine, very similar to the brunch special. Get to Bennett'sRestaurants.com. You can check out all the specials, the menus. You can make reservations there. Also, buy gift cards. Huge thanks. This is our second season with Bennett's sponsoring us here on If You Don't Like That. So huge thanks to them and the team. That's Bennett'sRestaurants.com. Bennett's West Side Grill in Rockland. Great conversation with Jerry. Incredible. Romanowski, surprised you didn't hear Chael Sonen's comments about LeBron. I did not. What did he say? Is it worth going to look up? Okay, so I'm going to give you the category. De'Aaron Fox was voted number 1 in fastest player in the NBA. Fastest player in the NBA, De'Aaron Fox, number 1. And I believe it was by a pretty good margin. Let's go here really quick. I had it just up. Where are you at? Best basketball IQ. Steph Curry was atop a lot of the list. Now the Kings were not atop very many of the list or questions. Eric Spoelstra is voted the head coach with the best defensive scheme. Okay, and he's also voted the best head coach in the NBA by the GMs. No surprise there. Also best motivator. So Spoelstra cleans up here. Most versatile defender in the NBA, Giannis. Interesting. Best interior defender, anybody? Wembanyama. Little too early for that, in my opinion. Best perimeter defender, Drew Holiday. Interesting. Now, who is the best international player not in the NBA? You're not going to like this one. With 30%, Sasha Vezenkov. How about that? The GMs thought that highly of Sasha Vezenkov? Wow. Incredible. Yet Sasha went back to being a big fish in a small pond. The NBA is not for everybody. Now, was that part of the situation? I would have said it was the situation in Sacramento, but the fact that he is not in the NBA at all anymore, that surprises me. Highest percentage of total votes on position questions, Jokic. Not a surprise there. Who's the best small forward in the NBA? Jason Tatum. Best shooting guard in the NBA. Who do you think that is? Best shooting guard. That one's going to surprise you. I don't disagree with it, though. I do not disagree with it. Your MVP voting, according to the GMs, and these are predictions. SGA, number 1. Luka, number 2. Embiid and Jokic and Tatum tied for 3rd. Grant always asks this question. If you were starting a franchise today and could sign any player in the NBA, who would it be? I'll let you guys marinate on that for a second. I want to find the Fox one. I'm looking for the Fox one. Shouldn't be hard to see De'Aaron Fox's name here. Rookies and international, defense, coaches, miscellaneous. There we go. That is what I am looking for. In Sacramento, there's actually something here that's going to piss you off. Which player is the fastest with the ball? De'Aaron Fox, number 1, 52%. Ja Morant, number 2. Maxey, number 3. Kyrie Irving got 3% of the vote.
Damn!
Really? I don't know if I can acknowledge that. Now, you're not going to like this one. You are not going to like this one as I scroll back up to it. Which team has the best home court advantage? The Kings are on the list, by the way. The Kings are on the list. Which team has the best home court advantage? Denver, number 1, according to the GMs. OKC, number 2. Tied for 3rd, Boston and New York. I would have bumped New York a little bit higher there. Number 5, Utah? Utah? Over the Kings, fans? That doesn't sit well with me. I know that doesn't sit well with you. Utah. Huh. That does not make any sense. Utah. I don't remember Utah being anything special. And think about how many opportunities the home fans had last year to really get into it, really blow the roof off the place. Not that many, not nearly as many as the year before. Very interesting. So the answer, by the way, the player that NBA GMs overwhelmingly would start their franchise with today, Victor Wembanyama. Victor Wembanyama. So there you go. That's a little sampling of the NBA GM poll. Go over it a little bit more tomorrow on the Kings Court shoot around. I'll dig through it with a fine tooth comb. One thing that I will mention from it that rubbed me the wrong way, besides the Sacramento fans, it was that Domantas Sabonis was not on the list for best passer in the NBA or one of the best passers. In fact, it didn't look like he even received a vote in that category. That surprised me. That really surprised me. Let's see. If Fox makes his free throws, big season. Don't disagree. He's had an incredible offseason. There's been a big focus on the free throws this year, Romanowski. A huge focus. In fact, almost every practice is ending with free throw competitions. Remember, free throws last year, attempts down 16+%. Made free throws down 21+%. Do you know what that equates to? that directly equates to wins. You take those two numbers and you put them exactly where they were in 22-23, the Kings make the playoffs last year. Guaranteed. Guarantee the Kings make the playoffs last year. So exactly, Kings need to make their free throws this season. Bingo. Wasn't Brunson, but I'm pretty sure he was on the list. The late Wilford Brimley used to go to Utah games. Interesting. Patrick's always the historian around here. Patrick got a real kick out of Grant going through one of the Yankees teams the other day. That was great. I just looked at Grant and I'm like, what language are you speaking? I don't know what you are saying, sir. Anyways, hey, we are not done on If You Don't Like That today. Grant and I will be back tonight at 8 o'clock. Join us. Phone lines will be open. Would love to hear from all of you, taking your questions. We'll have audio from today's practice. We'll get you all tuned in there, get you ready for the first preseason game, Kings Warriors, tomorrow night at the G1C. First opportunity, by the way, to see DeMar DeRozan as a Sacramento King. Anybody going to the game? Bane, you are the only one that I can't see emojis from. Person, turquoise, waving. You know I always read them out when you send them. I don't even know what sound drop to give you on that, Bane. What should it be? This one? Yeah. There you go. Anyways, we're going to be talking NFL too. Robert Saleh situation. Robert Saleh. Coach Brown. You know what? Before we go, I want to play this clip from Coach Brown. And when Jerry and I were talking about the balance of this team, and I was talking about having guys that are doing things that you have to have done for winning teams to be successful. And too many of those little things were on De'Aaron Fox's plate last year, on Sabonis's plate. In short, you were asking too much of those players, and the numbers bear that out. Both of them were in the top 20 in turnovers last year. De'Aaron Fox went from inaugural player of the year, clutch player of the year, to the fourth most missed field goals in the NBA. So Coach Brown hit on that and kind of put a bow on that conversation. Here's what he had to say and what he's looking for from guys across the roster that aren't the core of this team and the back end of the roster. I really liked what he had to say. Coach Brown here.
Oh, I mean, there's a lot. You know, you're looking for fit and what do we need, and you know, can this player grow? You know, whatever. And so, you know, if you're trying to get if you're trying to get down to the nitty gritty, you know, you want guys that do the small things. You know, we're a team that likes the offensive rebound. So if somebody's in that crash position, are they going to give the effort to crash every time and get a hand on the ball? You know, that is a unique skill set that not many guys can do. A lot of guys can do it 50% of the times. Most guys can do it 75% of the time. Not many people could crash 100% of the time, putting that pressure on the defense and trying to get your hand on the ball. So that's a skill set that we're looking for. We're looking for guys that every possession, again, everybody says they want to run, but it's hard to run for 48 minutes. Trust me. And play defense the way we want to play defense. So we're looking for guys that will run the floor extremely hard every single possession to put pressure on the defense and to open up that floor for a guy like Fox, who's the fastest in the league. You know, we're looking for guys that are going to hit somebody on the defense end of the floor, but do it without sending them to the free throw line. So having that physicality, having that presence, being able to communicate all the time at a high level. So those small things are the details are some of the details that we're talking about, trying to excel in and focus on right now with our guys, because if we need a bucket, we got guys that can go get a bucket now, and we can be ready to catch and shoot. You know, off of those guys. I don't need anybody to go out there and do too much. Or off with the movement we have in our offense, with the passing, with the willing passers we have within our offense. All that stuff's going, in my opinion, in time, be great. But those little details that are hard to do on every single possession to alleviate some of the pressures off of Tomas and Fox and DeMar, those things are what we're looking for.
He nailed it. He absolutely nailed it. I'm not looking for all those things tomorrow night, and you shouldn't be either. But I'm looking for the start of those things. I'm looking, most importantly, for nobody to get hurt. The Kings cannot afford another injury, but again, exciting time. You got basketball back tomorrow. We will be back tonight, 8 o'clock. Make sure you join us. Also, make sure you are subscribed to If You Don't Like That. If you are not subscribed, if you're not one of the 7.2 thousand that are, make sure you scan that QR code, because you will then get our entire library. We're not going to be in your faces. You're not going to get notifications, but you'll have all of our shows right there on If You Don't Like That. And you can download the audio from most of the shows. Any shows where Grant and I are on together, go to grantnapier.com, go to ifyoudon'tlikethat.com, Spotify, Apple. You can download the audio, take it with you. All of our pregame, halftime, post-game shows will be there this year. Again, we're doing every game like we did last year. Jerry likely joining us for most halftimes as well. And then do me a favor, make sure that you are following the Kings Court. It's growing. I reached out to Gabriel Harris yesterday, told him congratulations on being hired as the GM. He's still hoping to come on. You can understand things are pretty busy right now this time of year, but you'll get all of that stuff there and more. And also you get morning shoot-arounds. That's where you get my inside thoughts on what's going on in the building, what my reads are, what I'm seeing. We're listening to audio from the players, from the coaches, and many days or most mornings during the season, you'll get additional thoughts that weren't shared on the post-game show. So make sure you are subscribed there. Also available, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. All right, 8 o'clock tonight, Grant and I will be back. You'll have an opportunity, by the way, to choose Grant's rant tonight. All you got to do, have a good rant idea, put it in the chat. If yours is better than Grant's, he'll go with it. A lot of fun. We've been doing those as of late. So make sure you join us then. Thank you to Jerry Reynolds. Thank you to all of you for elevating the conversation. That was a great conversation with Jerry. Awesome questions from all of you. Can't wait to be back with you at 8 o'clock tonight. Big thanks again to Bennett for sponsoring today's show. Go Kings, light the damn beam. Court is dismissed.